Welcome everyone to English Learner Family 101. My name is Beverly Weber. I am a teacher in the English Learner Services Department. I work with teachers at all of our elementary schools, as well as the principals, in service and support of your families, your children. And Ms. Urali, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Yareli Ramirez Vargas. I am a student learning coach in the ELS department. I also work with teachers and principals, and our goal is to help all of your children.
In the work that we do in the English Learner Services Department in Twin Rivers, we are guided by the California State English Learner Roadmap. In this roadmap, we are given information about how to serve English learners. I'm going to read a quote from the English Learner Roadmap that talks about our English learners and guides our work every day. We need to not only cultivate English learners' language skills, but also ensure they meet high academic expectations that we hold for all students so that they can use those biliterate and multiliterate skills to thrive and lead in a multilingual state. One of the first things we do to determine our English learners is to use and to give the LPAC assessment. That is the English Language Proficiency Assessments for California. The first important thing to know about the LPAC is that it is made up of two separate tests, the initial LPAC and the summative LPAC. Each assessment has a different purpose. The initial LPAC is used to identify a student as either an English learner who needs support to learn English, or as a student who is proficient in English. The summative LPAC is used to measure the skills of English learners. The results will help tell the school and the district if the student is ready to be reclassified as proficient in English. We have talked about what the LPAC is, why we have it, but what does the LPAC measure? The LPAC is the test that is used to measure how well California students understand English. This test will give you and your child's teacher information about your child's progress in learning English and how to best support your child at home and at school towards English language proficiency. When your child takes the LPAC, they will be tested in 4 different areas: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Your child's LPAC scores will be sent to you. This is an example of a child's summative LPAC scores. This report can guide you as you support your child. The score will include an overall score of between 1 and 4, and a score for oral language, which includes speaking and listening, and a score for the written language, which includes reading and writing. These scores will help your child's teacher and you see and look at the progress your child makes from year to year.
Now, to continue on, what can you expect for your English learner or your child in the classroom? Students receive designated English language development, which is when students are in a small group with their teacher focused on developing English proficiency. Students also receive integrated English language, which is when the teacher provides embedded supports that help English learners access material in synchronous and asynchronous instruction. These embedded supports can be visuals such as pictures with labels, sentence starters, and time for students to practice speaking.
We would like to pause for a moment, and if anyone has a question about the LPAC or about designated English language development or integrated English language development, please either put it in chat, the chat box, or take yourself off of mute and let us know what your question is or your comment.
De esa, como dicen ustedes, ¿es para de qué grado es? ¿O es para cualquier grado?
So the question was, is this what we're talking about in grade level or for a specific grade level? And to answer that, any child from TK to 12th grade, so through high school, can be classified as an English learner. And if you want to add on more, Beth.
Como yo tengo la de 12 años, tengo de 12 años y la de 6 años tengo, por eso. No está bien. Gracias.
She just mentioned that she had the 12-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Very good. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you very much.
Gracias a ustedes por explicarnos también.
Do we have any more questions or comments before we move on?
Ay, para, ¿cómo? Bueno, digamos, esa es de pregunta puede ser cualquiera de cómo van a la escuela los niños o eso es aparte.
So the question was, are these questions just in regards also to how well they're doing in school, or is this apart from that?
So regarding your child's progress in the classroom, you will want to talk to the child's teacher. The questions that we can answer today have to do with the information about that we're sharing about the LPAC and about standards. We will be giving you information about how to contact your child's teacher in a little bit. All right, thank you. Great questions.
So as we continue moving along, I want to get into talking about the access to grade level and ELD standards. I want to note that just like with language arts, science, math, and social studies, we also have standards for language development. You have heard these called ELD standards. These ELD standards work hand in hand with content standards to help with your child meeting grade level expectations and become proficient in English in all 4 domains. The ELD standards guide teachers as they support your child as they become proficient in English. In Twin Rivers, we know that languages and cultures English learners bring to their education are assets for their own learning and important contributions to our learning communities. Therefore, we celebrate and encourage multilingualism.
One way we celebrate the students' multilingualism is through the Seal of Biliteracy. The Seal of Biliteracy program recognizes high school graduates who have attained a high level of proficiency in speaking, reading, and writing one or more languages in addition to English. The student receives the Seal of Biliteracy if they complete all language arts requirements for graduation with an overall grade point average of 2.0 or higher in those classes. The student also must meet standards on the CASP standardized testing and be proficient, as I said, in one or more languages other than English. The benefits of the Seal of Biliteracy are many. The student will receive a gold seal placed on their high school transcript. This recognizes their multilingualism and shows the value placed on that. For students who are applying to college, there is a potential for preference and credits because of their Seal of Biliteracy. Employers also value biliteracy, and that Seal of Biliteracy ensures that. We have talked about the LPAC, the standards, multilingualism, and the many, many benefits. So now let's talk about how you can help your child at home.
Okay, so how do you support your child at home? As we already mentioned, and we reiterate, we celebrate multilingualism. We encourage your child to speak, read, write, and listen in English and their home languages daily. Watch videos from teachers with your child and also talk with your child about why education is important. Along with that, we also ask you to ask your child to explain their classwork to you in English and or your home language. You can ask your child questions about what he, she, or they are learning in either your home language or English. Some examples are, what are you learning today? What projects are you working on? How can I help?
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm not an ELD student.
Okay.
We are little confused. Do we need to continue this meeting? I mean, she's not ELD student. I mean, I'm sorry about confusion.
no, that is okay. I just wrote a note in chat. So we will be sharing, or this meeting is for families of English learners, but we will be talking about how to read with your child and learn vocabulary, and we will be sharing many resources. We would love to have you stay, but it's up to you. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here.
ma'am. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So kind of continuing to talk about ways to support your child at home, let's talk a little bit about supporting from distance learning. Okay, so the apps on the screen are online tools that Twin Rivers has provided to students through the TRUSD apps portal. So it would look, if you see my mouse, it looks just like that. So in the TRUSD apps, there are 5 different apps that I want to talk to you about. The first one would be Google Classroom. This is a communication tool between the students and their teacher. Most of the assignments and resources may be found here, along with students can turn in assignments on Google Classroom. The Aries Student Portal is where you can find grades or test scores, including the LPAC scores that Ms. Weber shared earlier. You can find attendance, and you can communicate with the teacher, the site, and the district. Moving on to Gmail. Every student has a Gmail account that is only for Twin Rivers and family communication. You can email your child's teacher and receive notices. Translators can help with IT assistance if needed. And moving into our online curriculum, this curriculum is the curriculum that your child's teacher uses. It can be found here, such as language arts, science, social studies, math, iReady, Imagine Learning, typing, and some more apps. And lastly, my backpack is curriculum that's provided by your child's teacher. And before I move on from this slide, I do want to remind families to make sure that you are keeping your emails and phone numbers up to date on Aries. We will come back to this towards the end of the presentation.
Oh, one of my favorite resources that we have in Twin Rivers is called Imagine Learning. Imagine Learning is a digital curriculum that teaches children as they acquire, learn, develop, and strengthen their language skills. It teaches children through books and games and songs and videos. Students learn at their own pace based on ongoing assessments. Because the program matches the student's performance level, it allows the students to learn and practice the skills that they need. These skills range from letters and sounds and rhyming and vocabulary, spelling, reading comprehension, and more. It's fun for the students because they get to earn virtual tokens and play short games and customize their own picture or avatar. Be sure to ask your child about the stories and the games that they're playing and the things they're learning, and ask their teacher about Imagine Learning as well. Imagine Learning is also available in the Twin Rivers Apps portal, And it looks like that picture of the little blue guy right there. Well, we have talked a lot about different resources and different things that Twin Rivers has. If you have a question or comment, feel free to put that in the chat and or take yourself off of mute and let us know what you're thinking.
Now we are moving into a couple of reading activities. I will be going over 2 different reading activities. The one you see in front of you right now is called Story Talk. In a moment, we will drop a link in the chat that will have more details on this activity. I will model how this activity may be done with your child. That means I will show you how I would do this with my own child. But before I go through the process, let me explain what you will need and some suggestions that can help make this activity effective and engaging. First of all, you will need a book. When I say a book, it can be a physical book that you can hold in your hands or an e-book that can be seen on an electronic device. Some suggestions I do have is make sure you are reading slowly and pausing to ask questions or make comments such as, I wonder what is going to happen next. Your child might have questions while you're reading. Go ahead and answer those questions when you are reading the story to them. And remember, talking about stories also helps develop vocabulary. Now, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I would do this. Give me a second, I have to move some things around. I'm going to be using a story from Unite for Literacy. We will be talking about this website in the next slides. So, as I mentioned, I want you to see how this would look like. I'm going to go ahead and start and pretend that I am reading this to my child. Okay, we're going to be reading a story. The title of the story is called If I Had a Puppy by Anne Francis. Before I continue reading to you, I want you to know that we will be learning about some of the needs of puppies and how to take care of them. Okay, let me go ahead and stop right there. I want you to notice that I did not only read the title and the author, but I also gave some background information on the story. I'm going to go ahead and continue reading. If I had a puppy, I would take good care of him. Oh, look, there is a puppy. If he were hungry, I would feed him. What do you notice the puppies are eating? Tell me more. Do you see they are eating from a bowl too? Okay, let me go ahead and stop again. I did 2 different things. First of all, I drew attention to the picture, and I also drew attention to the details in the picture. So on the first one, I mentioned there was a puppy, and then I noted that there was a puppy in that picture. Now on this one, they were saying they were hungry, so they were feeding him. And you can see the puppies are eating. So I showed them by maybe pointing at them what they were eating. And in the back, I mentioned that they were also eating from a bowl. Now let me go ahead and continue. If he wanted to play, I would teach him how to fetch. If he were sick, I would take him to the veterinarian. I wonder what a veterinarian is. Do you know what it is? Notice the clothes the man is wearing. It reminds me of a nurse or doctor outfit. Veterinarian is very similar to a word that you might have heard. The word is vet. Okay, let me go ahead and stop. Now, I'm not going to be stopping every single time after every page, but I did want to show you how I might do this with different pages. So on this one, for example, I decided to draw attention to the word veterinarian. I asked the child if they knew what it was. You know your child, so it might be that you have to explain to them that a veterinarian is an animal doctor and they help animals. Or you might add on to whatever definition your child might give you. I also drew attention to the clothes, so I came back to the picture. I wanted them to pay attention to the picture and get clues by looking at the picture. Understanding key vocabulary, such as veterinarian, can really help a child comprehend the text. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. I might not stop after every page, but I want you to notice how I read it, the tone I read it with, and questions or comments I might make. If he got dirty, I would give him a warm bath. Oh, look, the puppy must have had a bath. He's all wet. If he were lonely, I would invite a puppy pal over to play. Look, these puppies are pals. They must be friends. If he wanted to be outside, we would take a walk together. If he were sleepy, I would put him in his soft bed. That bed does look soft, kind of like a pillow. If I had a puppy, we would be best friends. What would you do if you had a puppy? I'm also wondering if there is anything else you could do that was not mentioned in the story. Okay, so I just went through the whole story. I just really want to remind you that when you're reading, the biggest idea is spending time with your child. Along with that, you're building their comprehension and their understanding of the story. You do this by drawing attention to the pictures, drawing attention to words they might not know, and you also ask questions to get them thinking. At the end of the story, I asked a question to get my child thinking about beyond the text. That means beyond the story. So it doesn't end with this story. They can think about it if they had a puppy. One thing to remember also is this can be done with older kids. They read chapter books. You don't have to read a whole chapter with them, but you can read a page. And when you're reading that page, you also draw attention to the words in the story. You might ask them, what picture do you see in your mind? Because when they're reading, they're creating those pictures in their mind. And I just want to make sure I end it with, remember, it's spending time with your child and building those connections through reading. Now, let me go back. Before I do move on with this story, have you done something similar at home? You can go ahead and put it in the chat or go ahead and come off mute and share maybe something that you've done when you've read a book with your child.
Sometimes when I read with my grandson, I talk about the pictures, but sometimes we draw pictures about what's in the story also.
That's something I do with my 7-year-old also. Is there anything anyone does? Maybe you read a story before bedtime, or your child might read the story to you. Thank you, Heriberto, for sharing that. Let me go ahead and move on to the next reading activity. Now, this reading activity is called Family Stories. This is one that I personally feel is very important. It helps develop language and thinking skills also, but it doesn't even need a book. All you need is some time to set aside with your child to talk. You will tell your child a story about yourself, your parents or grandparents. You can even use pictures when you're telling the story. You can have your child tell you stories of events they remember, maybe a birthday party or a trip you took. And to add on to that, you can keep a journal to create a family story. You can include pictures in there or drawings that you can go back to and talk about. I know this is one that I grew up with. My parents always told me of living in Mexico and coming back. And that's something I do with my children as well. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it on to Miss Bev. She will be talking about a vocabulary game.
All right. One of the things that Ms. Yareli mentioned is how important learning vocabulary is. Helping your children understand different kinds of words is very important, but it can be fun too. And so we have included links to the reading activities and some vocabulary games in this presentation. I would like to play a little game with you. It's very simply called Vocabulary Game Time. And it goes like this. We're going to share a word and we're going to give it a kid-friendly definition. That means we're going to talk about what it means in language that your children can understand. I'll give you an example. We're going to take the word excited. Excited means to be enthusiastic or eager about something. What do you look like when you are excited? So show me with your body, what does excited mean? Show me excited, everybody, on the count of 3. Show me with your body what excited means. 1, 2, 3. Show me excited. Awesome. Excited means to be looking forward to something or eager. What would it sound like in everyday life? We showed with our bodies what excited means. What would it sound like to talk about excited? I might say, I am excited to celebrate my birthday. Maybe I'll say, I am excited to see my family. Think about what you might be excited about. And go ahead and you can either raise your hand or you can take yourself off of mute or you can type it in chat. Tell me something you're excited about. Remember, to learn vocabulary, we have to speak it and we have to hear it. So go ahead and share with me something you're excited about and make sure to use that word excited for us. Okay, who wants to try it?
I am excited for Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Just like with our children, we want to wait and give them a chance to answer. We also really want to share our thinking.
I think we have someone that wants to share. Mr.
Fant-
Mohammed.
Yeah, I'm excited when my children can speak English.
Thank you. And we're going to all show you excited right back. Are you ready? On the count of 3, show everybody excited. 1, 2, 3. Excited. Thank you for sharing. That is exciting.
Sí, cierto. Uno se emociona no mucho porque le da una alegría grande que ellos están superándose, aprendiendo en inglés.
So I will go ahead and translate that. She was saying that she gets very excited seeing that their children are, progressing and learning English.
Yes. That is fantastic. That is what we're here for. How? We can learn about vocabulary words such as excited and maybe emotions and feelings, things that are happening around us. We can also learn vocabulary about science that students are learning, science, social studies, math, language arts, stories and texts that they're reading. If your child was learning about in science, if they were learning about habitats, then your vocabulary game might sound something like this. Habitat is the environment in which a living creature lives. And we might talk about environments and habitats, and we might say, what habitat does a fish live in? Then your child might say, well, what might your child say? What kind of habitat could a fish live in? Could somebody help me with that?
You can go ahead and put it in the chat or
Thank you.
yourself so we can go ahead and hear your answer.
What habitat does a fish live in? Your child might say, a fish lives in the habitat called the ocean, or a fish could live in a pond, which is another habitat. So we want to practice those vocabulary words, listen to them, talk about them, and also, like Miss Yareli talked about, keep a journal of all of the vocabulary words that you learn and keep practicing all of those words. And Miss Yareli, I already talked about what's on that slide.
I realize, sorry.
No, that's fine. I went ahead a little bit. As you can see, I love to talk and learn about vocabulary and special words with children.
¿Cómo ves? A su le gusta mucho.
Okay, Miss Beth, we do have a question.
Beautiful.
I was wondering if you want to answer it now or should we wait after we go over the resources? It is regarding a work EL students are given.
Yes, let's, the question about the English speaking level and the amount of work that students are having, let's talk about that towards the end. But thank you to our friend, Mr. Mohammed, who says they may say fishes are living in an aquarium. Yes, that. And then we want to also say, yes, an aquarium is a habitat. Thank you so much for sharing. Great. Yes, and Miss Elizabeth, we will talk, answer your question in a little bit, in a few more slides. Thank you, Ms. Urali. All right. We have several resources for stories and nonfiction books as well. These are books and texts that you can use for the vocabulary games and for reading with your children. The one that Ms. Ureli used a few minutes ago is called Unite for Literacy, and that is the one she's pointing to right now. We'll open that and we'll go into Unite for Literacy so you know what's on there. First of all of these resources are free, and you can click on the link in the presentation that Mr. Edberto just shared. In Unite for Literacy, you can listen to hundreds of stories in more than 45 languages. And Ms. Ureli is scrolling through, and you'll see there are many languages that you can choose from. Additionally, in addition to hearing the story in those languages, you can also read all of the stories in both English and in Spanish. Now, the other exciting thing about Unite for Literacy is that each of the stories are organized by what kind of book they are. There are books about animals, about people, about holidays, sports, and there's hundreds of books that you can choose from. So many. And you can use these just like Ms. Ureli showed you to read with your child. You can read them in English and your home language. In addition to Unite for Literacy, we also have a site called International Children's Digital Library. This site also has books from many, many, many languages. The same for the one on the bottom called Global Storybooks Portal. And the last one is called Sabe. And these are books read to your child and you in Spanish by teachers. These are all available for free online. Additionally, the Sacramento Public Library has books online. We call them ebooks. And you can check these ebooks out. You can check out 60 books at a time. There are also homework help resources and daily tips for parents. The Sacramento Public Library website is available in 4 languages, as Ureli is pointing to. Next, there are 3 other additional resources we want to tell you about. The First Words Project is for parents of our young children, and these teach us as family how to help our young children with language. English Central has videos where you can interact that helps students with vocabulary. And last, VOA Learning English actually teaches you English and that you and your families can learn. And these are all free sites as well. One of the things I like about English Central is that you can slow the pace down and you can make it tricky or a little easier. Awesome. Any questions about any of those resources, please let us know. And Mr. Edilberto has put many of the resources we mentioned in the chat. All right, Ms. Ciarelli.
Okay, so I know we had questions about communicating with your child's teacher. Now, to add on to that, remember, your child's teacher is the best person to talk to about what your child is learning. The best time to contact your child's teacher is before or after school. You can ask your child's teacher about how you'd like to be contacted, either by phone or via email. Remember, if you send your child's teacher a message in your home language, the teachers can have it translated and then provide a response. Now, on this slide, I am giving you a couple of different example questions that you can ask your child's teacher. So you might ask, in what areas is my child doing well? In what areas might my child need some extra support? Or how can I help support my child at home? Who will provide that extra support? These are just a few examples of how to start a conversation with your child's teacher. Ultimately, we want to help your child succeed. That means we want to make sure you're reading with your child. Remember, ask your child to tell you what he or she sees in the pictures when you're reading a story or they're completing some work, or what is happening in the picture. Provide your child with opportunities to use language. If for your children who are in middle and high school, they will most likely have homework every day. I suggest you help in supporting their success by making sure they have a quiet place at home to do their work, away from any distractions. For all of your children, when it is time for testing, talk about the test. Make sure that your child knows that the tests are important, but they are just one way to measure what they are learning. The teacher uses that information along with other information to make sure your child is getting the support they need. Now, you might not be sure who to contact depending what your question is. So if your question is about a course, assignment, or a resource, the best person to contact would be your child's teacher. If it is a technology-related problem or issue, please contact IT Help Desk, either by email or giving them a call. If you have a personal concern regarding your child, reach out to your child's teacher, counselor, or principal. In regard to student services staff, school nurses, counselors, homeless family support staff, and foster care liaisons, we provide their number and their hours on here. English Learners Services Department, please contact Giselle Villegas, the interim director. And we mentioned earlier, updating your contact information like email address or phone numbers. You might want to reach out to your child's teacher or the site secretary. Let me go ahead and leave this up for just a second so you can look at it. Oh, and I think Mr. Edilberto just put it on here as well. Thank you.
All right. We had a question a moment ago, and it was a fantastic question. And the question was, will English learners be given extra work, or does it depend on their speaking level, or is it the same? The other part of the question says that that the parent had heard other parents say that their children should study hard so they can get the extra classes dropped. And the question is regarding how can I help my young children and how do I know what to expect? So to answer that great question, I think, Miss Elizabeth, I think that what you might have be referring to is that in students in middle school and high school do have ELD classes. In the elementary, from TK to 6th grade, the English learner, the English language instruction is done during class. So the English language instruction, like Ms. Yareli was talking about, with integrated instruction, the teachers using pictures and sentence support. In that case, that's done during the day. The designated ELD is also during the day, but in a small group. So an English learner in TK6 do not necessarily get extra homework or extra work, but they do get extra instruction. So to support their language growth. The students who are learning English, they will have, or they may have opportunities where the teacher recommends that they do extra practice speaking and listening and reading and writing at home, but it's not additional homework for the most part. Ms. Yareli, do you have anything that you would like to add on to that?
Ms. Bev, I think you covered that very well. It's important to note, like you said, in elementary, it looks very different than it does when you get to middle school and high school. And that is why we are sharing also these resources. So hopefully with all that extra support that you're providing at home and the support your teachers are providing, they will be reclassified sooner than later.
And I love the question, Ms. Elizabeth, because it is so important that we support our young learners so that they do learn the language and the content standards as early as they can. Yes.
Do we have any additional questions on our based on the presentation we just shared? You can go ahead and share it in the chat or come off mute.
No, está bien. Estuvo bien que explicaron bien todo ellas. No, está bien cómo apoyar a los niños y cómo están haciendo ellos también. Y gracias a ellos y gracias a los maestros. No, está bien. Gracias.
Well,
You're welcome. We appreciate your comments.
thank you.
Mr. Tibbs, would you like to say anything from a secondary perspective?
Sure. Hi, I'm Mr. Tim Tibbs. Currently, I'm a secondary ELD teacher at Rio Linda High School, but I'm in transition to work at the department level, and I can give a secondary perspective on that question. I think Yareli and Beverly said things perfectly, that there is an extra class if a student is not reclassified before they come to high school, my high school at least. If they are still